All right, so welcome everybody. Today we are at Calvary Cemetery in Toledo, Ohio, and we're going to discuss the unfortunate murder of Eileen Adams, who was just 14 years old when she was murdered in 1967 by Robert Bowman. On December 18th, 1967, Eileen Adams was on her way home from school. She attended a Catholic school about 3 miles away from her sister's house, and every day her father would apparently drive her to school, and after school she would take the bus with other classmates. It seemed to be something that was normally done back in the day. Get on a city bus and head down West Sylvania Avenue, where she would stop at a bus stop and walk about 1 block to her sister's house, where later on in the day her father would pick her up and take her home. So we're coming up to the 2200 block of West Sylvania. This is where she would have gotten off the bus. Now, driving this way, so we're right about going into the 2200 block. So this is 2144, and right now 2160, 2204. So from this area on, we're in the 2200 block. And looking at these houses here, any one of them could have been the death house. I don't know which one it was, but I do not see a bus stop on this side of the road. I do see a bus stop.
Turn left on Douglas Road.
I do see a bus stop on the other side of the road, but I'm going to assume this is probably the street that her sister lived on. You know, either this street or one over. I'm looking for areas where Robert Bowman could have...
Turn left on Eastbrook Drive.
I'm looking for areas where Robert Bowman could have taken her. I don't see anything here. I mean, if he's alone and he grabbed her alone, he would have to grab her and throw her in a car really quick and give her enough time to scream, or if he had his hands up over her. But somewhere along here, about a block away, they said, from 2200 West Sylvania is where her sister lived, and it's a fairly nice neighborhood. So I'm going to try to do a little bit more research and see if I can't find Robert Bowman's exact address, and maybe we'll get back down here and go from there. So now on this side of the street, there is a little bit of a so why do I think it's this side? There's a possibility on this side. You've got this gas station here, which I don't know if it was here back in the 50s. It looks like it probably was. There's a little bit of an alleyway back there. It could have been the other side, but the reason I think it's this side of the road is because the Catholic school was down that way about 3 miles. We'll see what else we can find out. I don't know, after 53.5 years, if we're going to be able to find out anything. When Eileen failed to show up at her sister's house, the investigation into finding out what happened to Eileen began. 6 weeks later, Eileen's body was found about 6 miles north of her sister's house in a vacant field by 2 hunters out hunting that day. Her hands were bound. Her feet were tied around the ankle with a cord that went up and around her neck, so as she tried to straighten up her legs, she would choke herself to death. Eileen's murder would go unsolved for over 40 years. But let's take a step back to December 5th, 1981. On that day, Margie Bowman walked into one of the local Toledo police stations and explained to them that her ex-husband was the one that murdered Eileen Adams. Now, the local police, they somewhat knew Margie Bowman. She was a town drunk, so to speak, and she had come into the police department drunk, and they kind of sort of dismissed her off at first. But eventually, they started believing her. They took down some information, and then they began searching for her ex-husband, a person known as Robert Bowman. They were able to locate Robert Bowman in Florida, and so they sent a message, a letter, to the Miami Police Department asking them for assistance in helping them locate Robert Bowman. A Miami detective who was just newly a detective just happened to pick up the letter and read it and recognized by the description the person they were talking about and knew where to locate him. After interviewing Robert Bowman, the detective got a hold of the Toledo Police Department and said, "You need to get a couple people down here to investigate this guy." The Toledo Police Department actually interviewed Robert Bowman on 2 occasions over a couple of months. The second time they investigated him, they were called down by the manager of the place that owned the building where he was staying and told him he was going to be evicted because he was selling the building, and if they needed to talk to him, they better get down there and talk to him again. During the second interview, one of the Toledo detectives noticed an action figure of Spider-Man with a nail through its head. This would confirm to them that Robert Bowman was indeed the murderer of Eileen Adams. Unfortunately for the detectives, they didn't have enough information to arrest him right there and bring him to Toledo. He eventually hit the streets and was lost in the underground world of the homeless. Around 2008, a new type of DNA testing was coming into being, and they were able to go back down to Florida, find Margie Bowman, who had now moved to Hollywood, Florida, and get DNA samples from her and her daughter. And it was a DNA sample from her daughter that actually matched a semen sample on Eileen's underwear to Robert Bowman. During the trial, Margie Bowman testified that one day she was doing the laundry and she was hearing some noises coming from the fruit cellar. When she went to investigate the sounds that she thought was mice, she opened up the fruit cellar door, and when she did, she seen a young girl who was hanging by wire, kind of being crucified like Jesus Christ, and immediately shut the door and went upstairs scared. After she composed herself, she went back downstairs to try to untie the girl. She did not know her name, and she was unable to, and in the midst of trying to untie her, Robert Bowman came home. When Robert Bowman realized that his wife had found out his secret, that he had a young woman tied up in his fruit cellar, he then threatened Margie Bowman and his daughter with death if they were ever to tell anybody what happened. And with the exception of Fred and a few family members, Margie never said a word to anyone until 1981. When she walked into that police department. According to Margie Bowman, she did not watch her husband kill Eileen Adams. He then took her to Michigan, where he dumped the body alongside the road in a field. According to her, he redressed her, wrapped her up in a sheet, wrapped her up in a rug, and put her in the trunk of their car. Of course, we now know that 6 weeks later, her body was found by 2 hunters. Margie Bowman claimed that she was a scared 21-year-old and really didn't know what to do. She was naive, so she kept quiet until 1981, where she could no longer keep it to herself. Eventually, Robert Bowman was arrested and he was tried, and the first time he was tried, it was a hung jury. Lucas County retried him again, and the second time he was found guilty of the murder of Eileen. I did check the records for the Department of Ohio, Corrections Department of Ohio, and they showed that he died. I do know that in 2014 he had a lawsuit against the prosecution, which made it all the way to the Ohio Supreme Court on appeal, which he eventually lost. Both of Eileen's parents have passed away, and her older sister, the one she stayed with when she would come home from school, married one of the investigators who was investigating Eileen's disappearance and death. Such a sad ending to such a sad case. May Eileen and her parents all rest in peace. This is the grave of musician John Posick, also known as Johnny Paris. He was the founder and leader of the group Johnny and the Hurricanes. They produced instrumental hits like Red River Rock, Rienville Rock, Crossfire, The Beatnik Fly, Rockin' Goose, and many others. Paris died at 65 of sepsis and pneumonia. Alrighty, here is the gravesite of a Civil War Medal of Honor winner, John S. Kountz, and his family's buried here along with his wife. His looks like his son, John S. Kountz Jr. and the infant son, and on the other side, let's go around that side, I believe a daughter. So another son. And then on this side, nothing. But I thought I seen something here where it was a daughter. But anyways, he was a musician with the Union Army Company G, 37th Ohio, and he was awarded the Medal of Honor for his actions on November 25th, 1963 at Masonry Ridge, Tennessee. His citation reads, seized the musket and joined the charge in which he was severely wounded. So sir, I hope you are resting in peace, and thank you for fighting for this country. Righty, Johnson, the name on it. And let's see what we can see inside here, if we can see anything. Augustus Brom Johnson, 1873 to 1949, and down below, Edward L. Johnson, 1868 to 1943. Not quite sure if we can see anything above there or not. No, doesn't look like anything's there. Just that one side. You look at the outside here. There's nothing here on that side, and looks like over here it was made for 3, maybe 2. So looks like the only ones that are in it. So I don't know who they are. We'll see if we can't find out something. Don't look like anybody's been here for quite some time. Nice glass at the other side. In memory of Mabel Fryer, 1891, 1933. Got a couple different views if this one doesn't work out. Yeah, let's take a walk around to the back. Might be a little bit better without them bars in the way. Well, looks like there was something else here at one time, and they put this in. So this is daughter Mabel Fryer, and mother. Oh, there's mother down there. If we can't block it out a little bit, mother Anna Marcus, 1866 to 1941. It's the only 2 graves that are in here. Okay, well that's going to do it for this episode of Lives of the Past from Calvary Cemetery in Toledo, Ohio. If you like what I do here, please consider subscribing to the channel, giving it a thumbs up, and we will see you on the next episode of Lives of the Past.